Hello and welcome to this very special final episode of this season of the Cheltenham Roar, brought to you by PriceUpBet and oddschecker. This is the Naps episode where I am your host George Ellick and I'm joined by Andy Holding and Ginger Joe as they give us their best bets for the Cheltenham Festival that starts next week. Andy, how are you getting on?
Good, yeah, fairly refreshed. I haven't done too many previews, although
you're about to.
That cranks up a gear this week. This being the first of quite a few. But yeah, feeling pretty good, nice and relaxed. The weather looks like being set fair for next week. Actually feels like spring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to change the dynamics of the whole meeting. We've had a lot of soft, heavy ground form, haven't we? Stands to reason we should be perhaps looking for slightly different horses that we've been used to punting and thinking about throughout the course of the winter. So yeah, I think it's time to sort of skirt back through the form book and try and find some nice, good ground horses or good to soft ground horses.
And Joe, I know you're always confident going to these things. How are you feeling about next week?
Yeah, very confident, George. Of course, yeah. But look, we need things to drop right for us, don't we? But I'm certainly happy with where my anti-post squad is at the moment. I've probably got a few races I could do with narrowing down a few selections still, but overall I'm happy. And like Andy, I'm pretty sure we're just ready for it to get underway now. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. I've asked the guys to come up with their best bet of each day of the festival, and we're going to finish the episode with their best bets across the whole week. So make sure you stay tuned right to the end of the show to get those. The guys that priced up, the fools, they've boosted every single one of the guys' selections win only. So if you haven't got a priced up account, go sign up for an account. Click on the show in the link in the show description. Click on Price Boosts on the left-hand side of the page, and then Cheltenham Roar anti-post price boosts. I cannot guarantee how long they will last for, so make sure you go and snap them up whilst you still can. But let's get into it. No further ado, and start, Andy, with your selection on the Tuesday in the National Hunt Chase.
Yep.
Newton Tornado boosted by priced up to 13-2.
Yeah, I think he'll go our favourite over Back Me or Sack Me, who can be a little bit wayward, let's say, or unpredictable. That's probably the best word to use. But I really like Newton Tornado. I thought his performance when he won at Doncaster last time out was exceptionally good, not only visually but on the clock as well. I do like it when the novices are capable of running a good deal quicker than the older horses, and that's exactly what happened. It was on the day where the Great Yorkshire Chase took place, so that's usually a fairly reliable guide over the same course and distance. And not only was his overall time quicker, but his final circuit from the path going away from the stands to the winning line was 4 seconds, roughly quicker than the older horses, which equates to around about 20 lengths. And he beat 2 subsequent winners as well. The horse of Mark Wolf that finished second went on to win at Catterick next time, and Noble Park of Nicky Henderson's for Michael Buckley. I thought he was quite impressive at Newbury the other day. So the form and the time figure has been boosted. So for those of us that do keep numbers and rely on speed figures to kind of find us winners, it's telling us that our data is correct. So Newton Tornado looks the obvious one for me in the National Chase, based on his number there. The fact that he's already been to Cheltenham, I thought he ran really well up to the point when he was seated right at the top of the hill. I think he was going like the winner in the race that was won by Zurich. Ironically, he did jump really well up to that point. His jumping actually at Doncaster was really good. He scored high on the jumping index. So I haven't really got a problem about his jumping, particularly over 3 miles 6. And of course, Rebecca Curtis won the race last year with Haiti Color. And I don't think this race is as strong as it was last year or in previous years when it used to be a graded race, and Willie Mullins used to save some of his best staying novices for this. The 2 that he had this year, Argento Boy and Joystick, both got balloted out because they were too highly rated. So I don't really see too many other lurkers in that. So I'd be very, very hopeful of he'll run well. Yeah, regards jockeys, I believe that Sean Flanagan is going to ride, which is a positive. Obviously, I would have loved to have had Sean Bowen on, who often rides for Rebecca, but I think he's due to be riding Wade Out for Ollie Murphy. Yeah, everything looks perfect for him. The ground should be fine. I know he handles the track, the ground, everything about it, the trip. So yeah, I'm quite confident of a good run from Newton Tornado.
Yeah, Joe, there was nothing that really caught your eye, at least in terms of your best bets for the week on Tuesday. So you've given us a few horses on the Wednesday, and we'll start with the Turners, where you're going in double-handed. A couple of selections for you. Ballyfad boosted to 9-1, and King Rasco Grey also boosted to 9-1.
Yeah, exactly, George. I mean, the way I've looked at my 5 selections, if you like, is that if you back these 5 over the festival, I'm assuming you will come out and profit. That's the logic behind my 5 selections anyway. Ballyfad and King Rasco Grey, they both come from the 2 mile, the grade 1 at Leopardstown, which was won by Talk the Talk, and they were both done for a little bit of speed that day. Both probably entitled to come on for that run a little bit too, but the fact that they've been done for speed by quite some way back by Talk the Talk, I would say is a slight concern with regards to their chances for the Supreme. So I think by default, and based on what we've seen Talk the Talk do, the pair will actually go up to the Turners. You've only got to listen to Willie Mullins' comments about King Rasco Grey, where he said, he was very much overweight in the pre-parade ring before the race, and he still ran a mighty effort. And then I heard Johnny Deneen say something in the week as well, and it's actually stuck with me a little bit. He said, the way you'll find out about Willie Mullins' horses is what they do on their second run. And I think if we're expecting any sort of improvement at all from King Rasco Grey, then he has to be there or thereabouts at the finish. And I think the same with Ballyfad. I think they're both going to be monsters over fences next season, but there's plenty of unfinished business yet this year. And I think that form of Talk to Talk is pretty big form. I think you probably agree there, Andy. The speed that he showed to come at that straight at Leopardstown and pit the 2 of them was pretty impressive. And I think if you're going to get caught, with it from a speed horse from behind, the Supreme is not going to be the ideal sort of race for these 2. So I think if you back the pair of these each way, Ballyfad and King Rasco Grey, I believe you will come out and profit in the race.
Andy, we know you're good with your novice hurdles. I know you're not going to slam any of Joe's selections in front of him.
Not at all.
But these are boosted from 7 to 1 and 15 to 2 to 9 to 1 the pair. Priced up at taking them on. What do you make of their chances?
I backed King Rasco Grey and put him up anti-post for that race at the DRF, and I couldn't believe he got beat. I came out of that race really upgrading Talk the Talk, because, as Joe said, he had no right to win from where he was. He was a good 7 or 8 lengths off the pace, and it was a very, very slow gallop as well. It was the slowest time figure that we got for the entire DRF. They weren't that slow. So really, Ballyfad and King Rasco Grey should have been fighting at the finish. The fact that Talk the Talk ran them down is a real plus for Talk the Talk. I don't think it really tells you how good or bad King Rasco Grey and Ballyfad are, because the pace wasn't strong enough to give us that kind of guide. But what we can say is Ballyfad's run a good number the time before, and King Rasco Grey ran a good time figure the time before when he won at Limerick. So they both have run good numbers, but just not on that occasion. So I think whether they can improve and get better over 2.5 miles is a $64,000 question. But like the Supreme, those 2 races, the Turners, they're very, very difficult races to decipher, because we don't know the full strength of the field. We don't know Townend's going to be riding. Will he ride King Rasco? Will he ride Sortudo? Is Mighty Port going to run in that? There's a rumour of him running the 2 mile. Talk the Talk. There's a rumour of him running in the Turners. So I think they're very difficult betting races at the moment. Plus the fact, if we get full-size fields or close to full-size fields or bigger fields than usual, there could be 4 or 5 places for both races on the day. Yeah. So I think they're modest betting races at the moment.
I think it's quite significant that they're both really straightforward as well. I think if you look at a few horses in the race, for example, I'd be heavily against Mighty Park, and don't get me wrong, what he did looked really impressive, but you'll go into Cheltenham with a horse that had no bumper experience as well. He went straight into a maiden hurdle, and don't get me wrong, he won well, jumped well, everything seemed okay, but how is he going to act at Cheltenham going left-handed with undulations? How's he going to act when he comes off the bridle? How's he going to react with horses around him? I think if you're looking to back a horse at 4 to 1, you need to be ticking a lot more boxes than what he is. Whereas Ballyfad and King Rasco Grey, they're straightforward going nature, and the fact they look open to much more improvement. They're the 2 that are bringing genuine grade 1 form into the race anyway, so they're solid as they come.
They are. They're both nice horses. Joe's right, they really are. I mean, I like them both.
9 to 1 the pair on that price boost page. Andy, you're looking at the Grand Annual for your Wednesday selection. Ryan's Rocket boosted from 8 to 1 out to 17 to 2. What do you like about his chances?
Yeah, I'm annoyed with myself. I never tipped this horse anti-post because he has been a little bit of a minor gamble, and I haven't actually backed him myself yet. So there you go, spoiler. It's not one of the ones where I've got 14s, 16s, and he's now 7s, and we're all crowing about it. I'll probably just back him on the day and hope for lots of places. I think if he stays on his feet, and that's the one thing that can't be guaranteed because he did unseat last time out, then he's got a good chance. Ironically, his jumping technique's really good. He was fantastic at Newbury when they went a good gallop and when he won, and to the point where he unseated Johnny Burke in the Desert Orchid, I thought he was going to win. He was trading at odds on the exchanges at the time, because Thistle Ask had gone off at good gallop, but he looked quite vulnerable out in front. And Ryan's Rocket got to him very easily at the final ditch. Unfortunately, there's just a miscommunication between horse and jockey, and he ended up departing. But the fact that he went off favourite to win a Grade 2 over Thistleask, had already run the Haldon Gold Cup, who's now gone on to run well against John Bond. He's rated 160. He went into that rated 135, so it could be the blessing in disguise of all blessing in disguise that he's still off 135. If he would have won the Desert Orchid, he would have been what, 145, 150 upwards, and then there would have been having to look down the, the likes of the Ryanairs or even the Champion Chase, supplementing for that. So they probably regathered their thoughts after the Desert Orchid, which was a bit of an audacious tilt, to think, okay, right, we're going to protect this. We're going to keep him fresh because he does go well fresh. And off 135 in a strongly run Grand Annual on good ground, which is also what he wants, he looks the part. And he's been around Cheltenham before as well. He just didn't quite stay on Trials Day a couple of years ago. He looked the most likely winner 2 out, but he didn't quite get. I hope he's soft or heavy ground that day, 2.5 miles. So at least he's gone around Cheltenham as well. So yeah, it's just one of those ones where if he can avoid mishap, you'd like to think of his mark. He's got to be bang there. He's just too good not to be.
8-1. That Ryan's Rocket. Andy's nap for Wednesday.
17-2.
Boosted.
Yeah.
Don't do my job for me.
Sorry.
Boosted to 17-2.
Giving you a gentle reminder.
With priced up. Don't you worry about that. That's all I'm here to do. Over to the Browns now. The Brown Advisory, where the Big Westerner is your second selection on the Wednesday. 9-2 at the moment with priced up, but boosted to 6-1.
Yeah, I like a piece of that, George, especially each way. She's a really solid option in this year's Brown Advisory. First, it's probably wise that I mentioned, of course, we've got Wendigo running in the same race, but I am a punting man at the same time, George, and I'm just trying to think with my punting brain here.
No sentimentality.
No, trying not to, but of course, there is a little bit of money down, of course.
These two jumping the last together?
Yeah, well, Wendigo sort of owes a little bit of a backstab to the Big Westerner because Wendigo came there cruising in the Bartlett last year on the home turn, and then Dara O'Keefe came across on the Big Westerner, and Gavin Sheehan was nearly out the side door. He was clinging on for dear life, and we've still stayed on really well to finish 5th. You could probably assume fairly that we'd have finished 3rd in the race, but whatever, it just confirmed that we've got a nice novice chaser for this season. However, I do think it's going to be quite a warm order to beat the Big Westerner. She's a mare that I've really liked ever since she sort of hit the racetrack, really. She's a really big mare that holds a lot of condition, and she's a mare that takes a bit of time to get right as well. She'll be primed for one big day in mind, and it's going to be Cheltenham again. Last time out when she beat Jade de Grugy over 2 miles 6, I think she was only just getting going in the last half a mile, really. I think the further they went, the better they were going to go. She's a really reliable jumper. She's a powerful mare too. She's a really, really powerful mare. She's not like your Dino Blues or your Spindle Breeze, like your quick 2.5 miler. She's built like a Gowden. She's a beast, this mare. She's a really solid option. She brings better form into this race than what Wendigo does, better form than what Final Demand does. I think the key piece of form to look at would probably be when she finished second to Jasmine DeVoe in that Bartlett last year. And the fact that she's obviously come out this year and beat Jade de Grugy as well just confirms that class. Yeah. She's going to be a real warm order, I think, on the day. 6-1, I think, is a really solid each way bet for those that are happy to play that sort of price each way.
I should say that the price boosts are win only, so it'd be 9-2 each way, 6-1 win only.
Quiz question for Joe. I don't think he's probably got this ready. Do you remember the last mare that won the old Sun Alliance, as it was? That's how far back it is.
Oh, I wish I knew this so badly, but I don't.
1995, Brief Gale.
Wow.
Trained by Josh Gifford.
I was 4 years old.
I started watching racing in 2001 when Rooster Booster hit the track, so just before my time.
That was a great day for me, that Rooster Booster. But yeah, Brief Gale was the last mare. In all fairness, sample sizes between now and then aren't that strong, that don't get many mares that run in it. I think the one thing about the Big Westerner, and it's on record, that she probably would prefer softer ground. Yeah. And it's interesting now that Cocktail Divan, who was going to be my third choice on the Thursday, still looks like running in the Brown Advisory. So it would be a difficult choice, I think, between Dara O'Keefe between the Big Westerner and Cocktail Divan on good ground.
Do you think the ground's got something to do with this sort of late change effectively for Cocktail Divan?
Definitely.
Yeah, because they, like you said, they're quite sure that the Big Western needs good to soft minimum. Yeah. Softer the better for her. But Cocktail Divan, with the way the ground's going, the fact that they're willing to leave the Jack Richards behind when he's got his mark of 151, I believe it is. It's that's a fair statement of intent, I think, from Henry to run her in the Browns, him in the Browns as well.
Definitely. 100%.
Well, Cocktail Divan was initially in Andy's staking plan, but he's had to reroute late on, which means that for your Thursday nap, Heartwood in the Ryanair. It was too late for us to get the price boosted. So 6-1 remains the price for price start, but it's an each way bet for you anyway, so the price boost wouldn't necessarily have been what we needed. So what is it about Heartwood's chances in the Ryanair for your Thursday best bet?
Well, it's a bit of a sporting selection. It has to be, because Factor File's going to be a very short price favourite, the banker of the week in many punters' eyes, quite rightly so after his demolition job in the Irish Gold Cup. We all thought that he might go towards the Gold Cup, but it looks like maybe, I know the way you're thinking's been resurrected in the last couple of weeks, and Spillane Tower is also throwing his cap into the ring for JP, so he probably doesn't want 3 in that where he's got nothing in the Ryanair, so he's quite right to run the champion 2.5 mile in the race that he won spectacularly last season. But chasing him home was Heartwood, and I just felt, having watched the replay and listening to what Henry has said, they rode him to finish second last season. They didn't really get involved, they didn't really throw any punches at all. They sort of shadow boxed the way through the race. Now, look, he's got a huge amount to find. I think it was about 7 or 8 lengths over the favourite. I take that on board. But I'd be flabbergasted if he's not in the frame with a clear round, hence the fact that I'm so strong on him each way. I think he's probably one of my bankers of the week in some each way multiples, which I'll play. There's lots of other races where, your likes of Load of Sword and Panic Attack and a few of those novice races where you think, that can't be out the frame with a clear round. So I'll be very confident in finishing the first 3. Still 6-1, so still a good each way bet. But I do think he'll be ridden a lot more aggressively this time around. And that's the way they rode him when he won at Tremor last time, clocking a big time figure when he was always on the bunny. He was always in second, pushing the pace. They can afford to ride him like that. And I have got a little bit of a love-in with Henry de Bromhead. I do want to keep all of his horses on side, by and large, throughout the week. Joe's already took the Big Westerner. I like Cocktail Divan. There's plenty of other his horses that are going to shine. And I do like the fact that a lot of his horses, including Heartwood, missed the DRF. Yeah. They didn't have hard races. He deliberately left that meeting alone. He didn't want to take any of his horses and give them hard race. And I think that will pay off for a lot of Henry de Bromhead's horses. It always seemed to come good at this meeting.
Excellent. Yeah, Heartwood there. An each way selection for Andy in the Ryanair. 6-1 with priced up as it stands. Over to your selection here, Joe. It's in the Stayers Honesty Policy, 4-1, but boosted, we should say. I think boosted. 11-2. There you go again. 4 to 11-2 about Honesty Policy in the Stayers. Yeah,
I am a huge fan of Honesty Policy, George. If you go back and look at history, you don't find many horses that seemingly improve as quick as Honesty Policy does. He actually finished second in his sole point-to-point start. No bumper experience either, but then he came to... he ran on January the 5th, made his maiden hurdle debut.
Nice, yeah.
By the time he got to April the 5th, he was a Grade 1 winner at Aintree, coming off the pace to beat the likes of Regent Stroll. So he'd only had a few starts in pretty weak company before stepping into Grade 1 company and obviously getting the job done. I'm going back again to the Jasmine DeVoe form line here as well, because he then backed that up by going to Punchestown and finishing just half a length behind Jasmine DeVoe. For such an inexperienced horse, that form is absolutely huge. And the fact that we've seen him improve so much from January to April already, and he's only had the 1 run this season at Ascot, I think it's more than fair to assume that there's plenty more still to come from this gelding too. Also, if you look at the race last year, JP and Gordon were quite happy to send the Wall Park into the race, who finished 3rd, coming up quite strongly up the hill behind Tia Hooper and Bob Ollinger. They were more than happy to say we're going to send him sort of staying chasing this year. Honesty Policy is going to be our staying hurdler. Again, I think that's a fair statement of intent. He is by jukebox jewellery. These are horses that seemingly start to do better when they do go out to trip. This is a horse that could have any amount of improvement. I know he finished second behind strong leader in Pose Trois at Ascot, and a lot of people sort of cribbed that ride, but he was coming up against race-fit graded animals on his first start of the season, whilst being incredibly inexperienced. There's every chance that he steps forward to become their number 1 by this time next year. And Tia Hooper, I'm not totally convinced about. I think he's a really reliable horse, but again, going back to a favourite, you want this horse to be ticking more boxes than they are currently to be backing them at 7-4. I'm not hung up on Bob Ollinger this year either. I think Honesty Policy is the up-and-comer, and he's going to be a star. Are
you surprised they haven't got another run into him between December and now?
The plan was to run him 2 weeks ago, but they were more than happy to skip the assignment. Nothing to do with any injuries.
Was that the ground? Was it the Boyne Hurdle?
The Boyne, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they won it with Staffordshire Knot, didn't they? Anyway.
Yeah, and he's now their favourite horse for the Pertemps. They highly touted him for their runner in the Pertemps. So Yeah, look, this is a horse going places. He'll probably go on to, unless he wins this year, he might even go on to jump fences next season. But this is only a 6-year-old. They haven't even scratched the surface of this fella yet. He's a proper animal, and he'll be staying up stronger up that hill than most. He really will.
6-1 boosted there for, what was it? 11-2, sorry. 11-2 boosted from 4-1 about honesty policy there for Joe in the stayers. His nap for Thursday. We're going to the Friday naps now before getting their best bets of the festival. And spoiler alert, all 4 selections coming up on the Friday. So both the naps of the guys also occurring on the final day of the festival. Andy, we've spoken about this horse a couple of times already on the Cheltenham Roar, but your best bet on the Friday is Sinatra in the county hurdle, 10-1, but boosted, get this, boosted win only by priced up to 16-1.
Wow.
Brave
That's
move.
a big price, yeah. He's a talented horse, this fella. I've liked him ever since he ran against Act of Innocence early on in the season. He travelled like the best horse that day, but he was beaten by a horse who's now quite rightfully one of the fancied for the Turners. And they've kind of like campaigned him with a view to get him handicapped, because obviously in the end you need 5 runs, don't you? You know, as a novice to get into this race, you know, there's going to be no Galopin de Champs and your sort of statements off 1 or 2 runs and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's even caught Mullins out having to sort of rejig his thought process in a race like this. And I like the fact that they ran him again in another listed race against Act of Innocence and the Sydney Banks over 2-3, which he didn't quite stay. A little small egg and spoon race around Sandown again, just to tick another box. And then he had his last run. This was cute. This was beyond cute. 2 weeks ago at Warwick in a 4-runner race where he was long odds on to beat a horse of Ben Paulin's called Four Springs. As it turned out, it could not have gone any sweeter. Although it was on heavy ground, he literally jogged round and he beat his main market rival without coming off the bridle. Dan Skelton did really well to pull him up and to keep the winning margin down to single digits. So that run was probably no more than an exercise gallop like he would have done at home. So it served the purpose of giving him that extra run. Amazingly, through the course of all those runs, he stayed on 133. He hasn't budged, which I find amazing. I think he's much, much better than that. He travels like a good horse. He travels like a graded horse, basically. And we know what the Skeltons are like when it comes to winning the county hurdle. This has been the target for a while by all accounts. So I think 14-1, now 16-1 is fair game in a county hurdle.
Exciting one, yeah. Always good. You know that the Skeltons have 1 or 2 they're going to run one in the handicaps. And Andy there with Sinatra, his best bet of the Friday in the county hurdle. Mares Chase now, Dino Blue, scintillating winner in this last year. Was sent off 6-4, currently 6-4 to do so again this time around, but boosted to 13-8 by price up.
Solid as they come, George. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a winner this Cheltenham Festival, I think it's Dino Blue. I've never really been on her side, shall we say, in previous years. She is a 9-year-old now, so she's certainly started to get to the sort of back end of her career. But she's one of the mares that has sustained quality over a long period of time as well. She used to be a little bit of a quirky horse, but she's much more straightforward now, which I like, because you need a horse that's going to see out the trip for the 2 mile 4 extended, effectively, in the Mares Chase. When you look at the likes of Only by Night, she looks like a horse full of speed to me. Whereas Dino Blue, despite being by Dr. Dino, she has gone up and won over 2 mile 6 this year as well. She got beaten in the Fortria to start her campaign, but again, mares in particular, they're often campaigned with 1 or 2 big days in mind, and no doubt in my mind that Dino Blue has been trained for Cheltenham. They could have run her in plenty of these 2 mile races, but they haven't. They've kept it quiet, keeping her nice and fresh. Her 2 wins last time out have been pretty breathless. She jumps solid, she travels really easily, and she's got a little bit of pace as well to stay up the hill at Cheltenham. So I don't see what is not to like about Dino Blue this year. And like I said, even though I haven't been with her in previous years, I find it dreadfully hard to see her beat this year. I really like Panic Attack, but even with the season she's had, she's got a good £10 still to find with Dino Blue. I'm not totally convinced about the other. So banking material for me this year is Dino Blue.
What price do you think Dino Blue goes off?
Depends what happens during the week. I wouldn't say she goes too much shorter, but she wouldn't be far off even money. I could see her going off 11 to 10.
And any bigger, the alarm bells start going off.
Yeah, potentially. Potentially so.
Yeah.
We've been there before. Right, time to get the guys' best bets for the whole week at the Cheltenham Festival. Exciting moment. Andy, yours comes in the Albert Bartlett. 4-1 about the Devil You Know. boosted out by the guys to 9-2. What is it about the devil you know that makes him your best bet of the whole week?
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this for about 10 seconds. Yeah, he's been a horse that's been on my radar for quite a while. I was really impressed with him early on in the season when he beat Skylight Hustle over 2 miles. I really liked him that day. I wasn't absolutely totally convinced for a horse who showed that much speed that he was good enough to stay the 3-mile trip at Doncaster, hence the fact that I tipped 2 others against him. In my stupidness, I tipped Country Code and the Price of Peace of Rebecca Curtis's, and it was a really brutally run River Don this season. There was no prisoners. They got strung out like washing. Good horses were tailed off, pulled up. I think Dan Skelton had one that was well fancied after pulled up. Kick or Larg, Ben Paulins was a punch-drunk 4th. And this lad stayed the trip really well. The further they went, the stronger he became. And I like the fact that he was switched off and ridden like a good horse. And I think they'll probably do the same again in the Albert Bartlett. And it's a race that Paul Nolan does really well. And I just think Paul Nolan does really well. He's one of the trainers that punches above his weight come the festival. You know, he won with Daily Present last season. He's won plenty of other races. The Feet of a Dance has won for him as well. Who's not without a chance, by the way, whichever race she runs in. I'll just throw a quick mention on her. But he nearly went close to winning this with Final Exhibition a few years ago, and also Sandor Clegane as well. Both of those have finished placed. So it's a race he's got a bit of rich tradition in, and perhaps a little bit of unfinished business. I've just got a sneaky fella that this lad's got more talent than those two, with the greatest respect to both of those 2 horses. And it doesn't look like being a great Bartlett as far as I could see. The likes of Expressive Milan and the horse of Gordon Elliott's Spinner Yarn. They haven't done any great numbers yet. Dr. Steinberg, his 2 wins have both been on heavy ground. I know he beat Devil You Know early on in the season, but that was an absolute egg and spoon crawl race, and it didn't suit the Devil You Know. He was ridden far too much off the speed that day. But I think given a strongly run 3 miles like he got at Doncaster, we'll see him shine again. So again, he's another one that I'm very keen on.
There you go, the Devil You Know, Andy's Nap at the Festival, 9-2 in the Albert Bartlett. Joe, yours comes in the big one, in the Gold Cup, the Jukebox Man, 5-1 currently, 6-1 is the boosted price. Why does the Jukebox Man win the Gold Cup?
I'm just a major fan of this horse. The more he races, the more I enjoy watching him run. For a start, he's a horse that loves to race. Really, really important. And a lot of people are pinning the fact, that he got outstayed effectively in the Albert Bartlett. I wouldn't look into that too much. He was only a novice. That is what that season's there for, to allow them to grow, to allow them to get used to the racing. He's a horse to me that has been taking a step forward with every run. When he beat Iroko at the beginning of the year, I wasn't necessarily taken by him too much because it looked like that was his limit. But when we saw him in the King George, I like the fact that he got headed after the last and he battled back and stayed on really, really nicely. I also think it's a major positive that the Ben Paulin team have been in good form from start to finish this season. The King George often these days isn't necessarily the best trial for a Gold Cup. People are questioning whether he will stay. God, he'll stay 4 miles, this fella. He's a massive horse. He's a beast. He's probably a horse that's built more like a Gold Cup horse over Factifile, over Gaelic War, over Django Bay, who's just a little thing. This is a proper national hunt, old school steeple chaser. He's got a bit of speed. He stays all day. He's certainly not going to end up on the floor as well. I can't see the Jukebox Man being outside of the first 3. But as we're going win only, George hopefully picks the crown too.
There you go, yeah, 5-1 if you want to bet the Jukebox Man each way in the Gold Cup. 6-1 is the boosted price, win only. So Andy's Naps, Tuesday, Newton Tornado in the National Hunt Chase. Ryan's Rocket in the Grand Annual on the Wednesday. Hartwood each way in the Ryanair on the Thursday. Sinatra in the County on the Friday. And the Nap of the week, the Devil You Know in the Albert Bartlett. Ballyfadden, King Rasco Grey for Joe in the Turners at 7-1 and 15-2 before the boost. The Big Westerner in the Browns, 9-2. Honesty Policy in the Stayers. Dino Blue in the Mayor's Chase. And the Jukebox Man in the Gold Cup. All of those, apart from Hartwood, boosted over at Priced Up. So pricedup.bet, if you go there, you sign up for an account, you click on the price boost page, you'll see under Cheltenham Roar anti-post price boosts, all of those horses and the boosted win-only prices. So do make sure you do that. Thank you to you guys for sharing your naps of the week. You'll find their tips over at oddschecker throughout the week, so make sure you do that and check the oddschecker grids for the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms and plenty more over the course of the festival. As I say, sign up for a Priced Up account if you haven't got one already. Check out oddschecker. Enjoy the racing, and please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.